Oh, I see the recording symbol now. Um,
Oh yeah, here it is.
um, Emma, having had kids go through the schools uh, back in the 80s and 90s, um, yeah, it was always a thing that, well, all this has to start with the kids. The kids will teach their parents what to do, type of thing. But the school was really not helping. I mean, I came in and I did, recycling demos for the classrooms and all that kind of thing. And then I looked at what the school's doing, and they're not recycling. The kids had a paper project where the kids did all the legwork to collect all the paper to recycle from all the classrooms and deposit it in a central area for the custodian to handle, which was good, I thought. Um,
Yeah,
but
shows them
they,
how much it is.
yeah, but they quit doing cardboard. Um, and it was a large district. The Utica schools is a there were 25,000 students in the district,
Wow.
and at some point they quit recycling cardboard. But yet the board office kept insisting to me that yes, we recycle, but they couldn't direct me to the person in charge of it.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly, so I got very frustrating. And one thing that they did do was they used those foam trays, like it's been talked about here this week. The foam lunch trays. But
Yeah.
we had a method of recycling them then. And now I'm not sure what's happening. And, I noticed some changes. We've been using the Chippewa school for our recycling events the last few years. And I've been stationed in the cafeteria to handle the snacks area. And the Chippewa school recycling seems to have gone through some changes. They used to separate out all kinds of things in different barrels, and they even took, drink boxes and juice pouches and everything. And now
Really?
I'm not sure because there's just one barrel. The last time we had the event in the fall, um, there was just one barrel for recycling, and everything went in. And they did keep cardboard separate, and they had a special dumpster for cardboard collection. But I really don't know if they were recycling any of the rest, really. It was kind of, I didn't really look into it, but
Anybody else want to weigh in on this conversation?
I would just say that I think the school stuff is exactly why I have started. Well, I didn't start. Why one of my main goals is to work with the school stuff, and that's why I've set up what I've set up and going towards that goal of making that better. And like we've talked and we've said before, um, that just what I'm involved in is just starting at the school level. So I'm hoping that that will fix some of that and teach zero waste and that kind of thing. Um, my family is not very good with, well, I can't say that. I've got a 12 and 9-year-old, so you have to buy toys and whatever. What I things that I do to help with zero waste is, I've been doing Ziplocs and that kind of thing for a long time. There's a lot of things that are just kind of already set up in my house. But one of the things that I do is I go estate sale shopping all the time. And so when I need to buy envelopes or like, I don't buy office stuff, I buy them at estate sales. So there's just a lot of things that I buy. And then if I find them for someone else, I tell people, just tell me what you're looking for and I'll find it for you if I can. So I try to do like that way instead of buying something new. Knowing that I can't not buy stuff, but I try to do the way of not buying it new at the store kind of thing. But yeah, zero waste is definitely um, a good way to try to go.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. that was another thing I started thinking about when I kind of started my zero waste journey. I think it's been like 4 years now, and really trying to embrace that lately. And I think that's such a cool idea. And I think more people could do that. You know, I try to like thrift shop as much as I can, and just buy things that haven't been, like you said, that aren't newly produced or whatnot. But, you know, kind of riding off of Elaine, what you were talking about, I think it's just such, it's like a top down and bottom up thing all at one time. And, you know, especially for kids, it still, after 7 years of teaching, it was so hard to sometimes make them understand exactly what they could recycle and not, and that they need to clean it out. And so it's something that, you know, it's hard for adults, it's hard for kids. It's just one of those things that you really have to take time out of your day. And I think that's where the challenge comes, you know, the convenience of certain things. But I did want to ask if, I don't know, I've just seen some of it in the emails, Leroy, the projects you're working on with like the foam trays and stuff. Could you guys talk about that a little bit more? Sounds exciting.
That's something that Sarah has been, well, it's been an ongoing thing since I've been aware of it, but Sarah has really taken it to the next level with her Meridian Green team, working with the administration, the superintendent, the facilitators director. And before you get too far into that, Sarah, and I'm really glad that Emma and Sarah can meet each other. And Katie, I just want to give her a chance to speak. I want us to be conscious of our time, and there's a lot of stuff we can talk about. So please keep your comments, you know, relatively concise, and just let everyone have a chance to weigh in on topics or suggest new topics too. And this can also be an ongoing conversation. I hope it is. So I'm going to shut up for a minute and just let Sarah or Katie fight over who gets to say something.
Go ahead, Katie.
I was going to tell you to go ahead. So I have one thing that it's more of a Earth Day is the everyday kind of issue that we have here, and it may not be an issue this summer, unfortunately, because it's looking like we may have to cancel camp altogether. But one of the things I started thinking about last year that I'm curious to find out what other people would think of for a solution is we've tried to do as many crafts in our summer camps as possible with items that we can reuse that would normally be recycled. So for example, like cardboard egg cartons and toilet paper rolls and that kind of stuff. But then last year, all I could think about was, is it better if I just recycle those instead of having kids make something out of them and then the parents throw them away? I started feeling really guilty because I'm like, well, these are no longer going to be recycled. Yeah, we're reusing them, but then we're reusing them and then they end up in the garbage more than likely. And I don't know how to fix that because I still want to use recyclable materials, but I don't want them to end up in the landfill. It made me feel really bad. So I don't know if you guys have ideas on that, but that was the one thing that I've been thinking about for a year now, and I don't know how to fix it.
I found in working with Cub Scouts years ago that I thought it was more valuable to make things that they would keep and use rather than things like that, you know, out of cheap recyclable things. So we found a dad that had scrap wood, and he cut out Christmas angels that the kids could glue various items they found around the house, buttons and, you know, colorful whatever. And that was a thing they could keep from year to year at Christmas time. We also made a thing that was like a little stand with little dowels in it that they would put on their dressers at home and store their Cub Scout neckerchief and the slide and, you know, various things. And we even went so far as to use a clothespin for the center post and made it into a miniature Cub Scout. Painted it with a little felt you know how they had those badge vests that were red felt. We made our own. Well, one of our projects was to make our own badge vests because it was so simple, and we wouldn't have to buy them. We just bought, yard goods of felt and made those. And then with the scraps, we made little mini vests for our little clothespin Cub Scouts on their little stand. And I said, this is something that the boys will want to keep, not just toss out tomorrow type of thing. So, it was, you have to really search around to find good ideas. But now that we have the internet, it's boundless good ideas out there, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's an important thing to think about, and I appreciate you asking and posing that question, because I've done camps before. Well, I've done a lot of summer camps before and done the crafts portion, and am always wanting to not make it be more trash that gets taken home. So I appreciate that, and I think that's something that could be a cool way for us to help you creatively find new ways to do that. So I think that's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, Katie, I was going to ask, which I agree with you too. It's kind of like with the bird feeder houses made out of half gallons that could be recycled instead. Yeah. Yeah. But how do you feel about, because there's this dilemma of them using natural items, but then we don't want to teach them to take natural items, but are there certain natural items that you feel you could incorporate or you would feel comfortable?
So one of the things that we do with camp, because it is an ordinance in the Meridian Township Parks that there is no collecting of any kind. Okay. And we don't, we've never really allowed the schools to take things because there's just too many kids. But during summer camp, sometimes with certain camps we'll make an exception. So we have a couple of art camps, and they're, nature's artists is what they're called. And so for some of those crafts, we'll use pieces of nature. Like, for example, we paint with flowers, or they may use some sticks to make a habitat for an owl picture that they made, or something like that. But we're not 100% opposed to it, but we definitely minimize it because we don't want kids to think that they can just go anywhere they want and take these things out of nature.
Right. There's a fine line there.
I love the idea of kind of the concept of zero waste that Emma brought up, and that has helped me kind of rethink about my thoughts on the whole concept, because part of me feels like there's really no right or wrong. I mean, you're not an evil person for generating a scrap of something that's going to end up in the landfill. But at the same time, working collaboratively to reduce waste, it's kind of like taking recycling, it's backing up a little bit and rethinking the whole paradigm.
Yeah.
It's not exactly addressing your topic, your question, Katie. My personal feeling is that whatever brings you more joy is probably good.
Like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And another topic about, going off of the zero waste thing is, I'm always struggling with how to be sensitive when talking to people. I firmly believe in the work that I do, that it's better to not preach to someone, even though you want to, but conveying your message without shaming anybody, because especially people who are not already on the kind of environmental boat, I think that is a really tragic way to confront those people. But also, you want to be able to convey your passion and how important it is to you. So just another thing to throw out there of if anybody has thoughts or ideas on kind of how to tackle those issues.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I have a person that I know that is environmental, but it's very much shaming she doesn't get very far because it's like it doesn't help. It's about for me, it's about educating people, and sometimes people aren't ready. And so, yeah, there's a fine line.
No waste, no shame.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that people aren't ready, but it's true.
Mhm.
I mean, we've known what the good things to do are for a long time. Yeah.
Well, and it's
It keeps
interesting to me because,
evolving, you know.
yeah, and it's interesting to me because when you say that, it's like some of the stuff that and I don't I don't want this to be rude, but some of the stuff that we are discovering to do now is stuff that my grandma and great grandma were doing. And so it's interesting to me when we're like, oh, we have this new idea. And it's like, not really. I mean, they were doing that 100 years ago. It's nice that we're maybe getting back there, but like that stuff's kind of funny to me. And time wise, I can't remember. I think it was 2001 when Inconvenient Truth from Al Gore came out. And I remember thinking, oh, are we finally going to get somewhere? And it's been so slow still since that, but we are getting somewhere. It's just taking forever. So.
Yeah, maybe a little too long.
And I'm going to say the Earth may not have the time that it's taking us.
Well, the Earth's been around for how many billion years? I'm not as worried as some people are about our future. Also, just witnessing this experience the last few weeks, if we look at how quickly things have recovered naturally,
Yeah.
I think it's kind of a reminder that the Earth is resilient. And
Mm-hmm.
part of our shaming is kind of related to this idea, which I'm not sure is totally accurate, but I'm not willing to give up the idea of shaming someone for polluting. But I think what you were saying, Emma, about being respectful and being conscious of when we're shaming and when we're not, sort of a self-righteousness,
Mm-hmm.
because it's all relative. When Katie or Emma or Sarah or Elaine are doing activities that engage children, what's more important, engaging children or, creating a few things that'll be in our landfill for billions of years? No, I mean,
No, but I'm kind of on your track too as well, Leroy, where, I always tell people, because my in-laws, they are always very questionative about me and my career, because they just aren't as, they don't really think that there are issues. And what I always say is, that's fine, that's cool, because the Earth is going to be here. The Earth is going to keep going around until, the sun swallows it or whatever. There's a lot of ways. But it depends, like whatever we want for our future depends on us. The Earth is going to adapt and keep doing whatever in response to what we do. But, it's really, how do we want our future to go? I don't think the Earth is not going to care. It's just going to keep doing its thing. And it's going to keep evolving in a different way, but it's really comes down to, do we want to see our culture suffer when it doesn't need to be that way necessarily?
Right.
Building a little bit off of what Leroy was saying about, is it better to engage kids than to, keep things out of the landfill or put things in the landfill or whatever. You probably found in working with kids that you can use it as a learning tool, teaching tool, and, talk about the things you're using and then ask them for their ideas about how maybe you could do it a little differently to be more environmentally conscious.
It's a great idea. Thank
It's
you.
amazing the ideas that kids have. It really.
Mhm.
As,
Great. Thank you.
as someone who still has about 14 boxes of children's art in my garage, I have found that as the children reach their 30s, they're more likely to allow you to recycle it or throw it away.
Or if you're like me, they want to keep it.
I want to keep their stuff that they don't want is the problem that I've got. I've got boxes of their stuff that they cared nothing about. And I'm going, but you sure you don't want your high school diploma? You sure you don't want, your photos from, high school and, your art projects and your,
Yeah.
go-
Well, I think there is a lot of, I mean, consumerism is, I think it's at a really high level right now, and there's so many things mass produced, but there's also a wave of like minimalism going through with, our generation, and like my nephew, he's 14, and he's very like, he doesn't want anything extra, or and he's kind of already has that mindset. So maybe some things are kind of clicking in, but once again, there's still, I feel like with electronics, there's a lot of consumerism still.
I really like the idea of teaching children that they make a difference and just encouraging them, trusting them, nurturing their interests, and listening to them, and celebrating their differences, not trying to preach to them about what they should do, but asking them questions and appreciating their creative responses. I think that's really super important and empowering, because one of the things that's going to power our future is our children. So how do we cultivate and appreciate their role, which they have?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when I worked at Waldemar, I really transitioned from doing camps where kids were paying to be there. I mean, there's a lot of scholarship opportunities too, but I kind of transitioned into doing Annie's Big Nature Lesson, which, Katie, they do that over there at Harris. And that was a really cool transition for me, because you end up working more with just all the schools. And we worked with Lansing District mostly, which is, generally lower income. And when you think about the like pyramid of hierarchy of, your needs, when you are somebody who is in a lower income family, your first worry is not going to be about the environment, or perhaps you've never even had an experience out in the environment. So that was a really cool, like, eye-opening challenge for me, because you can't be preachy to children like that. You just have to like let them have a good time and love to be in nature. And then you're kind of going back to the basic of just nurturing their connection, and you just want them to like find a place in nature they love to take care of. And so I think that was a really important transition that I went through with education.
It's a really good point.
I love Sarah and the Green Team's effort to get the schools to practice what they preach. And sort of, this came up earlier in the day when we were talking about lawn chemicals and Meridian using TruGreen, and should we be talking about no chemical lawns if we're still using harsh chemicals? And I wonder if Sarah could speak briefly to kind of your challenge but the opportunities you see with the Okemos School District in getting the district to sort of practice what they're preaching.
Well, I think in some places, Okemos has done environmental things. Certain schools have been with Julie. She's not on here, obviously, but Julie has done styrofoam tray recycling and done that kind of thing. But I felt like this need of being able to go more towards the systems rather than just trying to provide recycling for the trays, but actually get rid of the trays. So just the idea of going and backing up in bigger picture of looking at the systems of how to manage a school district environmentally. And so that's where we're headed when we can actually get back together and have, it's not something that you can ask the superintendent to do right now in the middle of a pandemic. But when we can get back to doing that, of just setting up our committee to work on the systems and creating different ways of getting the school involved in and having that environmental lens to look at things. So I'm excited to see where that goes, and I'm hoping that we can create it to be an example for other school districts.
That's great.
Okemos can influence some other schools in that, like the lunch stuff. They do lunch stuff for other school districts, so we'll see how that goes. But I'm hoping that can influence some other school districts as well.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Obviously, some of the challenges are like using True Green, for example. There's a convenience, there's a cost factor with removing your weeds. There's a kind of a social expectation to have no dandelions, and which makes, and I don't know what Okemos is doing with their landscaping practices, but I'm not sure that I have the right answer. I know that there is interest in reducing the mowing, but maybe we could spread the foam tray mulch on the grass, and it will help keep the weeds down.
Well, it's definitely something that I can take back to Okemos, to that committee, to have it be part of the discussion environmentally.
Yeah, I think I saw that email really quick before I got on here from Jane, Katie, about the promoting. And I agree with you too, where we can't really promote what we don't do. And because I thought about that with the Meridian Conservation Corps putting in this native plant program. If we're going to do that, we have to get on board with that and do it ourselves as a township. But I think maybe coming from, instead of saying like, oh, you should all do this and we're doing this, we should be like, hey, we think this is a really good idea. And so we're really trying to move that way. Like not saying like, hey, we're the coolest or the best and we do this, but we would love to move in this direction and we think you should too. So that way, like, because you said we would get probably nasty comments, and I totally agree.
Yeah, it would get real controversial.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I think maybe having a standpoint of like, yeah, we have stuff we can work on. This is where we want to go with it, sort of thing.
Yeah, maybe experimenting with a couple of not so publicly visible areas. I'm thinking about the no mowing too. There's no reason we have to mow necessarily as much as we do, but starting to practice what we preach and not getting too preachy about it in the process. But maybe finding other communities that are trying new things and have these goals as well. And what are they learning, so that it doesn't become too much of a leap for us to start experimenting.
Yeah, I think even Larry Bob had brought that up about Marshall Park. It's difficult to mow. It's a very small park over by Lake Lansing, and it's really difficult to mow because it gets wet. And so we talked about planting long prairie grasses, wet prairie grasses there instead. And just mowing a path through it, when we can, for people to go in, and also putting a native garden there. So I think even if it's just a small part of what we can do, if we can start doing that in areas where it seems like it makes sense, I think that's great.
Well, I live in a neighborhood which has a large green space, unbuildable land that floods in the spring. We spend about close to $10,000 a season mowing and caring for our various common areas. That's the largest one. We've got 2 other commons areas in the neighborhood. And, at various times people have asked, about, putting something else there so we don't have all this to mow, planting native plants, community garden, this and that type of thing. But it was always, looked into and deemed that it was quite a upfront cost to do a changeover of any sort. And it just, the idea had gotten dropped. So I'm wondering if that's something that we, want to revisit again. I'm thinking our mowing costs will be lower this season because we won't be able to start mowing. on schedule with this lockdown business, which I think is a plus. Personally, on my own yard, I've got about a third of an acre, and I used to do my own fertilizing, and about 5 years ago, I said, why am I doing this? I don't want to put chemicals on my lawn. And I don't do any of it. And I always left down the grass clippings. And hey, I don't think my lawn looks any different than it did before. And what's wrong with dandelions anyway? They're kind of pretty. I like them. And I do get, I've got weeds, but so what? I don't live in one of these Bigfoot designer neighborhoods that I've got to have a manicured lawn to keep up with the neighbors. I live in an older neighborhood, and everyone keeps it up fairly well, not a problem. And I've got moles, and so what? I don't want to treat for moles. They're only in the backyard.
May I suggest getting a Cairn Terrier, because my little dog will take care of all the moles. I don't like him to, but he just goes out there and keeps them out of there.
Yeah.
I want us to be conscious of our time. We got about 15 more minutes, and
It's a thought.
I was going to say, I think it's going in that direction of trying to figure out other ways to do a lawn or open space. I think when people don't know where to go to get an education of what your options are, I think that's something that could be considered of, say you don't want to put chemicals on your lawn, what are some other options? Or, just trying to figure out how to educate people of what the options could be. Because I don't have any idea where, like, if I were to not, or to any open space or whatever, like, I don't know where I would go for learning what that means. Like when you're saying, here's this marsh area or whatever, instead we'll put this in. Well, how does a typical person that doesn't necessarily have any degree in greenery or whatever, how does someone learn that? So that's.
Yeah. I'm kind of sad today because we were supposed to launch the Meridian Conservation Corps today, which is going to be a volunteer-based program through Meridian. And one of our programs within that is called Planting a Native Meridian. And so I'm working on getting resources to build up resource toolkits for all these areas. And so in that program, we will have an entire plant list of native plants that we suggest you plant, whether they should be planted in sun or shade. I really like to embrace this idea of xeriscaping, which is where you're landscaping to use less lawn. And it doesn't mean that you can't have any lawn, but it's just a way to incorporate more plants, more brush, more trees into your landscape. And so that program, because I agree with you, I think there needs to be a place where people can go and they just find that information. So that's something that I've been personally trying to work on a lot, and getting the best resources for that, because there's resources out there, and the nurseries are great resources, but everything needs to be central. So that's all going to be set up on a website in the future. I don't know if all of you live in Meridian Township. I don't personally, actually, but it's still going to be a resource on a website that people can check out. And so that's something that I'm excited to see kind of get out there. Mid-Michigan Environmental Action Council is working on this regionally. They want to help people start backyard habitats and use alternative landscaping, plant rain gardens. There's also interest regionally, including Meridian Township, about more green infrastructure. And that was the purpose of this green map we've been working on, is showing the ways that we are establishing green infrastructure, appreciating our parks and our natural areas, which are kind of the core of our green infrastructure, but also helping people think about ways that we can grow green infrastructure in our own yards. So I'm excited about your interest, Emma, and a way to compile those resources. And I think regionally,
there's a lot of interest from a watershed perspective, from a green infrastructure perspective, because people are starting to realize that it's not just our gray infrastructure, our storm sewers, but how we nurture and appreciate the ecological infrastructure and cost savings that provides.
And it's important too, in that, because this is being recorded, I'm going to be careful in identifying location and such. But I think not just greenery, but water is important. As in, I have an experience with a pond that people are wanting chemicalized so that it makes it very clear and no algae and that kind of thing. And there's that conflict of not over chemicalizing things, but also not wanting things to look less pleasing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Do they fertilize around the pond as well?
yes.
Because that's where their algae is coming from.
Yeah. And
those are
how
things
to-
I'd love to get out there for people to
yes,
know.
and
yeah.
how to educate that, exactly, of saying, yeah. So,
Providing
Absolutely.
buffer strips, and there's some simple things that can be done. I love the idea of this conversation, and maybe maybe we can continue this at a future time, either on Zoom or elsewhere. But that's the whole idea of green infrastructure, and some people call it green stormwater infrastructure. It's all about water. So I think you're right on, Sarah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it would be interesting to keep getting out there that, you know, a lot of our problems are caused by ourselves. And so I think being able to address those things, and I'm all about solutions though. You know, if we're going to put something out there, we need to have solutions for it, or else nobody's going to even look.
well, and I think that's, Leroy, that's where one of the things that I was saying when we were preparing for wanting to do this breakfast or this coffee chat was also having a chat later on with the whole idea of what are the things that get in our way of being able to be more environmentally minded. What are the things that are causing? So there's a whole lot of people out there that are not necessarily environmentally minded. What are the things that are getting in their way of being able to get on board or be more mindfully in that aspect of, you know, so what are those things that we can help remove those barriers?
Yeah, and I think a lot of the times it does come out to be convenience too. So
I also love the idea of this concept that we are seeing right now in the COVID crisis is of collaboration and coming together as communities to solve problems and come up with creative solutions. So I think this is really potentially a springboard for these core concepts of collaboration, diversity. You know, there's no one right answer. There's lots of ways. And we're just finding in this group, for example, how we might work together, or how we can work with each other to maybe address some of these things that we're bringing up as problems. You know, we see things we can do, and we can practice what we're preaching just together in our small groups.
yeah, and I think there's so many awesome people across communities, and you know, because we're not seeing fast enough change at the federal level, and so I think it's really honestly going to come down to local change. And you know, I think communities are going to be the forefront of this change. I don't think it's going to happen on a huge federal scale. I mean, it would have already, I feel like, but so I think, you know, we're all kind of the soldiers in this this fight, and I think, you know, just doing what we're doing and hoping it spreads and we plant some seeds, pun intended.
Sounds good. I really appreciate this conversation.
Me too.
Do we want to set up another one now, or like a regular time once a week or once a month, or should we just kind of keep each other informed of stuff we've already got going on? I don't want to create more work for anybody, and I personally don't want to figure out ways to spend less time on Zoom. But I enjoy these conversations too. So
I think the conversation is really good and helpful because there's a whole lot of things that I've worked on in my life with this, but even in this short conversation, I'm like, oh, okay. So I think for me, it's helpful, and it just keeps me going, oh, there, not that I don't already know that there's a lot of work to do, just areas that I hadn't necessarily known or understood. And I think as we work together, I mean, we're all in all these different areas, and it's just like that bicycle spoke of ways that we can just work on the bigger picture of stuff. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, Sarah. And I'd be fine with meeting regularly or what. I mean, I'm pretty free right now.
I can't do the 7 o'clock tonight, but I will be interested to see, if the morning during typical work hours is okay compared to evening. Like, I know when I work with PTO, unfortunately in the schools, the evenings don't get any better attended because people with their kids. So I think that will just be interesting to see if it's any easier for evenings or not. But
yeah, let us know how it goes. I can't join either tonight, but
okay. Well, I like the free account of Zoom limits you to 40 minutes, which is kind of about the right time for a meeting.
yeah.
I went for the paid version because I'm doing an open mic on Thursday nights. And
cool.
you're feel free to turn in. It's the same. I think it's going to be the same link for this meeting. Anyway, if anybody else wants to host a meeting, that's great, and we can hold off deciding on our next meeting. Or if somebody wants to suggest next week at this time, we can do that. See how it goes tonight.
I'm kind of touch and go, so just keep me in the loop, and if I'm available, I'll jump in.
Thanks for going the extra yard for the phone and the computer, Katie.
Yeah. Yeah, and thanks for all your hard work at the township. Right now, Katie is like the only one who's in the office ever, and she's doing everything right
Oh my gosh.
So I appreciate you. I know everybody else does too.
What is your role, Katie?
Park superintendent.
Okay.
Oh.
And you have to feed all the animals at Harris every day.
Holy
So
moly.
I'm covering the nature center critters and our utility workers that are critical infrastructure. So I feel like I work more now than before.
Yep, I was going to say.
Yeah. I'm tired.
You need a break after this when we all come
I do.
back.
I'm ready for vacation if they'll let me travel anywhere.
Yeah, right. Tickets are cheap. Well, I'm all good for next Wednesday if you want to schedule it. I'll just keep an ear out, and
Yeah.
I would love to join in. These are like invigorating conversations, they keep us going, and we don't feel so alone.
Well, and I feel like when the school stuff is able to get going more, I think what I'm able to find out from that and bring back will be helpful in I just think that will be helpful. I mean, the schools are so, in this whole crisis, the schools are the ones that are feeding the kids. So the schools can be such a huge aspect of working on getting this somewhere in a certain way. So I just think, I'm hoping that it could be helpful to share what we have going on.
Yeah.
It's a good point. Anybody else want to make a brief parting comment?
Happy Earth Day.
Happy Earth
Yeah,
Day.
happy Earth Day.
I think our consumption of certain resources is way down, but look at all the disposables we're using for carry-out meals
Yeah.
everywhere, you know?
Yeah, I like that you plan on highlighting that this week or next week. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Elaine.
Yeah.
But the other thing I think we mentioned in one of our million other meetings we've had, but one of the nice things that I've seen, thankfully, is when you do carry out, there are restaurants that now have it labeled on their website, do you want utensils or not? Which,
Yeah.
hallelujah.
Yes.
I'm hoping they will continue to have that as something that stays on there afterwards.
I have a drawer full of packets of silverware, but don't they have edible silverware now? And like they have
Bamboo.
so much. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. I wish more people.
Edible silverware. I've seen compostable, but very rarely.
It's
But
like
I-
biscuit silverware.
Yeah.
What I have started doing when I remember to bring it out of my car is if I'm going into a restaurant, I bring my own carry-out container,
That's
a
great.
washable one. And they're usually, the servers are happy to see that someone brought their own container.
That's good to
And,
hear.
You know, I remove it from my own plate myself into my container.
Yeah.
And I don't have to have them bring me a foam box that I've got to figure out how to recycle. Well,
Yeah.
I
stack
take in
up
my own
my-
silverware for like Leaf, when you go to Leaf and get salads or whatever, I take my own silverware in and stuff.
Oh,
Okay.
cool. That's a good idea. I should just keep some in my purse.
I have a container that it goes in.
That's perfect. Getting
Yeah.
good ideas here.
Can I just, since Emma and Katie are on the call, are you still there, Katie?
Yep.
Can I just share my screen real briefly? I wanna ask, and anybody else as well, if you would like to edit this map. It's really easy to add pictures to each of these different places.
Uh-oh, I think you muted yourself.
muted yourself.
Leroy.
you did.
We lost ya. We can't hear you.
Sorry
Does-
about that.
There you go.
Does it like automatically mute you when you go to
Let me-
the other thing?
Let me try. Can you still hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I just
Yep.
want to say in the period of about 5 minutes this morning, I added 3 pictures of solar installations to this map. Katie has been very helpful in us working with Courtney to find links to maps for our parks and stuff.
Wow.
But if you have any cool nature photos that might associate with any of these spots, I would love to add you as a editor. And it's super easy to add pictures. So I'm just going to throw that little invite out, and you can email me if you'd like to add some pictures, or you can just send me your pictures and I'd be happy to add them.
Yeah, I'll send you some when I get a chance. I mean, I think I have more on my work computer in the office, but I'll look through because I've been taking lots of pictures at the preserves and parks. So
Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to take up the rest of our conversation, but any other parting comments?
No,
That's
have a
good.
great day.
yeah, thank you all for being here this morning. Lots of good ideas and points.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, everyone have a good
Um,
one. Oh,
Well, maybe we'll see you next Wednesday at 9, but let's see how things go this evening. And
yeah.
Okay,
We'll
take
be
care,
in
folks.
touch. All right, see you,
Bye.
everybody.
Thanks.